Turn on. Sorry.
There it goes.
Do I have a second on the minute approval?
Second, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole. All in favor of approving the minutes of our regular December meeting? Please say aye. Oh, actually,
Aye.
on Zoom, I think I need to go through. Rich Gordon,
Aye.
Oh,
Jason Devel,
Aye.
Nicole
Yes.
Davison,
Aye.
Tom Fitting,
aye.
Kirk Scott.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we do have one item that we're here for tonight under our subdivisions and re-subdivisions, which is the application of Kristen Clark PE applicant, Cold Spring Lot Management LLC owner for an 8-lot subdivision of property located at 121 Upper Patagonic Road, East Lyme Assessors Map 35.0, Lot 44. Just before we get started, I do want to let everyone know on the commission that we will definitely make sure we go through. Everyone will have a chance for questions and comments, but I'd like to start by kicking it over to Gary to kind of set us up for what we're prepared to hear and discuss tonight.
So for the record, we've had a number of items come in last couple of days. I believe back starting in December 21st, we had a letter, Exhibit YY, was a letter from Alex Close, town engineer, to myself regarding condition 11, in the wetland approval. Exhibit ZZ is a memo from Attorney Casey regarding the open space. I think most of you have seen most of these. Exhibit AAA, the letter to myself from English Harbor Associates. Exhibit BBB, drainage soil map from May Engineering dated December 15th. Exhibit CCC is a demonstration of the CDD regulations for 121 Upper Pat dated January 5th, 2022. Exhibit DDD, a proposed lot layout for phase 5, sheet 3 of 5, updated 1/5/2022 to show open space. Exhibit EEE was the driveway and Eversource easements, grading and ENS, sheet 4 of 5, updated 1/5/2022. Exhibit FFF, detail sheet 505. Exhibit GGG was a letter to myself from English Harbor Associates dated January 9th, 2022. Exhibit HHH, response to record Exhibit ZZ, Nottingham Hills Phase 5 from the applicant. I also noted, added Exhibit III, the plan review comments from B. Mulholland. They were submitted back on September 10th, 2021, but I noticed they weren't in the list of record items. Exhibit JJJ will be a memo I'll be submitting this evening to the commission dated today, January 11th, 2022, regarding the above application. And Exhibit KKK, I want to submit the subdivision regs adopted September 7th, 1952, revised through November 8th, 2005, or 2008. With that, I'll might as well start with my memorandum. What I can do is I can email that to everyone here as if it were being handed out. Give me a second. I have an email prepared for that. And I just sent it to you all. I'm not sure if Mr. May will receive it. Let me go back to that sent item. Not look like Mr. May was on that, but I don't think it'll be that significantly important at this moment. Not bad. I'm going to share my screen. Everyone can see that. All right, so my review included a review of all the materials that came in since our last meeting. And I offer the following comments and findings. We have obviously received the application on August 10th, 2021. We've thus reviewed the application, the materials, and staff has provided comment as well as the applicant's professionals and their representatives. The parcel of land constituting the subject property, the property subject to the application is zoned R4020 rural residential, and the properties abutting the site in all directions are also zoned R4020 rural residential. The application does not request any waivers. In the proposed subdivision, I found to meet the requirements of the East Lyme subdivision regulations and the East Lyme plan of conservation and development as demonstrated by the following. Section 4-2-11 easements and deeds requires copies of these easements and deeds necessary to carry out the subdivision plan into effect. And they shall be submitted. In order to address this, typically what we do is we condition it as part of the approval. No sense of drafting deeds if they're not needed, if it was to be denied. Section 5-2-2 stormwater management plan. Again, as indicated in Exhibit MM, a memo from Alex Close, our town engineer, dated December 7th, indicates the drainage and stormwater report along with the revised plan, the calculations addressed and satisfies previous comments in Exhibit HH. As such, the plan meets the intent of Section 6H of the subdivision regulations, and the proposed site development will not adversely affect water quality of downstream water features or exacerbate any downstream flooding. However, the town engineer did recommend detailed grading and drainage plans for each lot as they were built out. I would note, sorry, I keep trying to scroll more down. I would note that as demonstrated in exhibits YY and WW from Alex, our town engineer, to May, he indicated that the bioswale on the north side of Upper Patagonia Road in front of lots 51, 52, 54, and 55 is not necessary as the existing topography provides a naturally occurring swale. He recommended that this area not be cleared to install a swale when the naturally occurring vegetation and topography already serve that function. The erosion sedimentation control plan, as indicated in Exhibit NN, is a 2-sheet plan set entitled Plan Showing Driveway Easements, etc. They provide a review of that, provides for a proper erosion sedimentation controls, notes and details. That's pretty extensive. Therefore, I believe the Planning Commission can certify that the plan complies with the requirements and objectives of the regulations. In regards to the sanitation report and water supply, both indicated in Exhibit R, correspondence from Wendy K. Arnold Brown, RS, REHS of Ledge Light, dated December 12, 2021, indicates the proposed lots are, quote, recommended suitable in their current condition for both subsurface sewage disposal and on-site well. In terms of the archaeological survey, as you know, Section 5.8 requires a survey to be conducted and a report to be sent to the SHPO a minimum of 35 days prior to the submission of the application. It's demonstrated in Exhibit CC, the amended design report. The applicant submitted a request to the state of Connecticut for review on August 10th, which review resulted in them requiring a Phase 1B study be performed for the 14.3 acres. And indicated that said report would be submitted under cover. I'm sorry, did I pull up the right? I just indicated, I was correcting this because they did indicate in their exhibit, I believe it was AAA, that they provided as Exhibit U that draft report, which was submitted to the SHPO. We have not received comment back from the SHPO. And the only thing that I would note as part of that exhibit is that the areas outside of the 8 lots, she did indicate may still be archaeological sensitive, having a high archaeological sensitivity. So that would be the remaining acreage.
Gary, this is John Casey for the record. I'll note for the record that the version of your memo that you sent out is updated on this point. Yep.
Let me do this. I'll stop the share there. I'll go grab that one. There we go. Apologies for that. Thank you, John. Here it is again. Exhibit UU indicates Sarah Holmes, PhD. She conducted that study. We have not received a response from the SHPO yet, but it would also be noted that she noted that those areas, again, indicate future disturbance or construction outside the proposed 8 lots, where intact soils are present, continue to be categorized as having a high archaeological sensitivity. Section 6-2, lot design specifications, as indicated by the applicant's testimony, the proposed subdivision initially is not a conservation design development. It is a standard conventional subdivision. Second, as proposed, the application is an application for a subdivision of 64.3 acres of land into 8 building lots, and is clearly not a re-subdivision. I've made this comment previously. With the exception of that, the proposed subdivision appears to be laid out in a manner generally consistent with the specifications of 6-2. Section 23.2 of the zoning regs states the planning shall require the provision of the section in the subdivision of any parcel of 10 acres or more in area, or any subdivision of 4 or more lots. Section 23.3 of the zoning regulation indicates the planning commission may require conservation subdivision by design for subdivisions of any parcel of land less than 10 acres or subdivision of less than 4 lots. Upon finding that such development will further the objectives of section 23.1. As demonstrated by exhibit CCC, the proposed plans entitled Plan Showing Demonstration of 40-foot boundary buffer and the 200-foot house setback requirement of Conservation Design and Development Regulations, Nottingham Hill Subdivision Phase 5, property of Cultivating Lot Management, LLC, 121 Upper Patagonia Road, East Lyme, Connecticut, 06233, dated January 5th, 2022, provides a 40-foot wooded or otherwise landscape buffer along the perimeter of the development to screen the development of the proposed lots from the existing contiguous lots pursuant to section 23.5B1 of the zoning regs. In addition, exhibit CCC also demonstrates a deep no build, no plant buffer of a minimum of 200 feet may be obtained pursuant to section 23.5B2 of the zoning regulations, which is required in wooded areas where the sense of enclosure is a feature that should be maintained. In regards to the energy efficiency in conservation, as demonstrated by exhibit AAA, the applicant describes the use of passive solar energy techniques and satisfies this requirement. In regards to open space, section 6-7 of the regs, again, as stated in my previous memorandum, exhibit TT, as indicated by the applicant's testimony, the proposed subdivision is not a conservation design development and is a standard conventional subdivision. Again, that the proposed application is an application for a subdivision of 64.3 acres of land into 8 building lots, and is clearly not a re-subdivision of any previously subdivided land. While the proposed subdivision is located within a residential zoning district, the adjacent to existing lots which were previously approved as part of a cluster subdivision, and continues the pattern of development characteristics of the existing residential cluster development. The subdivision is not being proposed as a conservation design development. However, in order to take advantage of the dimensional flexibility offered by the regulation, applicants must provide open space in accordance with section 23.6 of the zoning regulations. However, the proposed subdivision didn't initially propose here. I guess it doesn't propose the dedication of open space in accordance with 23.6, and nor did it propose any open space in accordance with the general statutes of 8-25. As the applicant proposes 0 open space, the application indicates the open space requirement has been met through previous dedication of open space associated with phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the Nottingham Hill subdivision. However, as previously indicated, the subject parcel has never been under common ownership with the abutting, adjacent, or adjoining lands, nor has the subject parcel been previously subdivided or were part of any previous applications for subdivision. As previously noted in exhibit TT, 121 Upper Patagonia Road was never shown on any proposed or approved plan as being the part of the Nottingham Hill subdivision at the time phases 1, 2, and 3 were proposed. As indicated by the applicant's testimony and as demonstrated in exhibit EE, the subject parcel did abut lots in the Nottingham Hill subdivision. However, they have never been nor are currently under common ownership. However, as demonstrated by exhibit CCC, the proposed plans entitled Plan Showing Demonstration of the 40-foot boundary buffer and 200-foot house setback requirement for conservation design development regulations, Nottingham Hill State Subdivision Phase 5, property of Cultivating Lot Management, LLC, 121 Upper Patagonia Road, East Lyme, Connecticut, 06233, dated January 5th, 2022, provides open space in 2 locations totaling 4.23 acres of open space. Section 6.8 of the Stormwater Management and Section 6.9 requirements regarding flooding based on Exhibit MM, again from the memo from Alex Close, dated December 7, 2021, indicates that all his previous comments have been addressed and recommends prior to construction detailed grading and drainage plans be provided for the lots and proposed driveways, outlining the spillway management practices for the rain garden and the grading of the driveway swales in relation to the check dams. In addition, he recommended an operation and maintenance plan be submitted to the town with clarification as to who the responsible parties are for the check dams and rain gardens, as well as include inspection and maintenance criteria and schedule for such work. Again, requirements regarding flooding, as indicated in Exhibit MM, indicates the revised plans and calculations have been provided by the applicant, addresses comments. Thus, the drainage summary meets the overall intent of section 6-8. As demonstrated by Exhibit SS, the Inland Wetland Agency modified the plan to include a bioswale, as I previously mentioned, in front of proposed lots 51, 52, 54, and 55 to mitigate stormwater runoff not being treated by the rain gardens. But as demonstrated by Exhibit YY and WW, which is an email from Alex Close to Tim May, it indicates that the bioswale along the north side of Upper Patagonia Road in front of lots 51, 52, 54, and 55 is not necessary, as the existing topography provides a naturally occurring swale. As such, the town engineer would not recommend clearing this area to install a swale when the naturally occurring vegetation topography already serve the function. Street and roadway designs, again, there's no proposed road. I did make the comment about road being widened as needed. Although there's no proposal to do that, they do have some proposed clearing in the right of way for sightline. And this requirement is just where the commission may require the applicant to dedicate land for future realignment or widening, not a necessity. The only other note here is the Inland Wetland Agency modified the plan to include a 25-foot conservation easement along the southwest side of Upper Patagonia Road over lot 55A to maintain the existing vegetative buffer along the lakefront to the maximum extent practicable, as the proposed plans require the clearing of vegetation on both sides of Upper Patagonia Road in order to achieve adequate sight lines exiting from the proposed driveways. In regards to underground utilities, as demonstrated by Exhibit FF, a note has already been placed on the plans indicating the same. Versus surety, the commission can require surety for performance. In this particular case, as there's no public improvements being proposed, it would primarily just be an erosion sedimentation control bond that would be required. And here's the proposed resolution with several conditions. One being the ENS control bond requirement for detailed grading and drainage plans for the lots and the proposed drives, again outlining the spillway management plan for the rain gardens and the grading of the driveways, swales in relation to the check dams, etc. And that they be submitted on 24 by 36 sheets at scale of 1 inch equals 40 feet. Also, an operations and maintenance manual to be submitted to the town, clarifying who the responsible parties are for their maintenance. Just a note here regarding the existing topography and vegetation, as they provide a naturally occurring bioswale, obviates the need to construct a bioswale in front of those lots. And just indicating that the proposed limits of clearing shall be strictly adhered to, and a drainage conservation easement possibly preventing the clearing or regaining this area shall be provided. Certainly can discuss what may be required or what would achieve that goal. And then any drafts of the proposed easements for the installation of underground utilities shall be provided for review at council as to content and form. And all those items need to be completed prior to filing of the subdivision on the land record. That's all I have.
Thank you for the speed round. Much appreciated. Mr. Garrity, I am guessing that you would like to address the commission tonight and the new information, the exhibits that you sent in between last meeting and now. The only thing I would ask is if we're going to be reviewing maps, let's make sure we're screen sharing the map that we're looking at so that everyone's looking at the same thing. And we could do that on our end if you don't have them on your end, but I just want to make sure.
Limited in the technological sense here, but I don't intend to do that unless it becomes absolutely necessary. Our engineer, Tim May, is here tonight to answer any questions regarding the stormwater. But in reviewing the minutes and having attended the last meeting on the 14th, I believe it was, the concerns of the commission that were raised were essentially whether or not open space was being provided, and if not, did this application, based on our position, meet the requirements that we assert were agreed to in prior commission meetings and that we bank plan. However, while we're not waiving that position, we have agreed to dedicate open space on that. As Mr. Gaishel said, we're dedicating 4.2 acres of open space on that. So that alleviates the issue of the open space. And the, I think it's the January 9th letter that was submitted. I have to just find my notes here on that. Goes through the demonstration for the CDC on there to show that this could be, that we can meet all the buffer requirements for the CDC, the 40-foot perimeter boundary, the 200-foot setback. But because the property has already been cleared in the front, that it makes more sense from an environmental standpoint and conservation standpoint to go with the conventional design. We've incorporated, as I've indicated prior meetings, the driveways so that they're shared driveways, reducing the pervious surfaces by doing so, and putting in clearing buffers on the lots. So I believe that the letter from January 9th demonstrates our intent to comply with, or that we can comply with Chapter 23. But we think that as it stands now, and with the final review from staff, that those issues that the commission had raised, and sort of the peripheral ones that are revolved around whether or not we were giving open space or not, have all been resolved then.
Okay.
And though the demonstration on the CDC is exhibit GGG, it's contained in those documents, where my client outlined the various requirements for the CDD and what we were doing in response to that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anything else in this upfront from you tonight?
I don't believe so, unless the commission has questions of myself or Mr. May.
Okay, great. I want to give Attorney Casey just a moment of the floor too. I know we are all in receipt of that memo. If there's anything that you feel needs commentary before we kind of break into discussion and questions.
For the record, John Casey from the law firm of Robinson and Cole. Madam Chair, I really don't have anything to add in light of, of my memo. You asked about the provision of open space in section 722, how it would apply. I think the fact that the applicant is proposing open space now, kind of, as Attorney Garrity said, sort of makes that issue moot. I know they didn't waive their, interpretation of the regulation, but it's now in their application. So I think that's what you would consider as a commission, the open space that's been offered as part of the application, and sort of going through the exercise of how and you should interpret that regulation. I don't think we need to do it, honestly, because open space has been provided. So
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is invite any questions from the commission. So I can either kind of go through the screen, or if you want to just pop off mute, and if anyone wants to kick us off with questions or discussion items.
So I have a question. This is Kirk. I have a question about the 25-foot I don't know if it's a requirement, but there's something that I saw in here that they talk about 25 foot from the center line of the road. One of the things that I think about when I think about roads going through areas that were not previously developed is the case where the roads get more and more used and more traffic comes along. And I'm just wondering about whether or not they'll be able to widen that road if needed in the future. So that's my question. And I don't know who would answer that, if that would be town staff or Mr. Garrity or?
I could probably speak to it. I think if the town needed to widen the road, for whatever reason the town needed to widen it, they would have to, as Mr. Garrity indicated, that the road isn't owned fee simple by the town. It's kind of crossing over private property, although it's been maintained by the town for, as far as I know, for the last several decades. So most likely we would probably have to do some title searching, reach out to all the landowners and notify them that, hey, the town needs to widen the road. Typically, if there was a development along the road that was proposed that caused the traffic to exceed a certain threshold that would warrant widening the road, typically that's kind of a requirement of the proposed development to do that. So I think in this particular case, if the level of service that's currently on the road and then the additional traffic from the 8 lots isn't going to bring that level of service down any further or significantly, although as land gets developed along Upper Patagonia Road, right, that level of service may diminish, and that may be something that the commission has to consider with future developments. I think at the present moment, it's not exactly knocking on our door. I don't know that this particular subdivision has enough traffic that's going to warrant widening the road. Could it be done? Certainly, my response is anything can be engineered. Its proximity to the lake is awfully close, so most likely if it's going to be widened, it would be probably toward and away from the lake, toward the north, in that direction. And in which case, if the town really had to do it, they would probably pursue some sort of a taking, similarly like with the state of Connecticut does when they need to either widen or realign a highway ramp, they'll do a taking. I don't know that the town has any intent or really plans to widen Upper Patagonia Road. It's a low volume road. And in some cases, it's just got like just a one yellow line down the middle. So I don't know that there's any future plans for widening. There are some large parcels along Upper Patagonia Road that, if developed to their maximum extent, might cause the traffic to increase such that it warrants the widening of the road, but that's too far in the future to predict. It could all end up being open space for all we know. So, that's the best I think I can answer that. And I think if you had technical questions regarding how to widen the road, I would probably ask Mr. May to answer those.
You comfortable with that, Kirk?
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions at this time? If not, I'd like to propose that we just kind of review the revised maps together to make sure that everyone's, again, looking at the same thing, and that we all get a chance to look together at the proposed 4.23 acres of open space, the ability for the 40-foot buffer, the ability for the 200-foot setback. And I also just want to understand better the 25-foot conservation easement over lot 55. So I think probably the best exhibit to pull up is Attorney Garrity's memo from the 9th. I think I have that up right now. Gary also would be open to you screen sharing if you have it.
Loading.
And I meant to download it so that I could open it in something that I could look at it straight on instead of like this.
Okay, so here's Mr. Garrity's January 9th letter. Actually, I shouldn't say Mr. Garrity submitted, but actually Ms. Clark's letter.
Yes, thank you.
So this goes through the attached plans, and that show the demonstration of the 40-foot buffer and the 200-foot house setback requirement. Again, indicating the lots have the identical lot layouts and the same size, all of which exceed the 40,000 square foot minimum. And here are the changes. They provide that buffer, which they indicate is in yellow. The 200-foot homes, the setback does not currently exist, but there's a 200-foot measurement identified and an alternate house location was provided. We also have some photographs. I don't know if you want to look at those photographs. I can get further down in the attachments to this document.
Yeah, if we could take a look at the items marked in yellow and orange to start, I think that's what I want to make sure we're looking at together, the 40-foot buffer and the 200-foot setback.
Okay, so in yellow, here they indicate here's the 40-foot buffer, and it runs all along the boundary of the lot, the land being subdivided. I don't know that the 40-foot buffer is needed on the interior here, but they're providing it. Here's the other map. Showing here's the proposed house locations of the original in black, and then in red, it's showing a proposed house location just further back. As you can see, they all about, I mean, it's probably another 50, 60 feet from where the proposed house location is.
And uphill, yeah? Is it?
And uphill. And I believe one of the comments that the applicant made was that by shifting the homes up on the slope, they're going to become more visible in the view shed from the lake back to the shore. So keeping them in their proposed location may be more advantageous to maintaining that view shed from the lake. And I think noting the town engineer's comments about the swale, which is in the south, where if you can see my cursor here, this grading here, this is that swale that runs along the road. And if I zoom in, hard to see, but you'll notice this ruffle right here. Those are the limits of clearing. So they're only clearing in this area, leaving this area out open here, only cutting the driveway through it. And then here they're leaving the trees all in this area as well. So this is the area in which we want to preserve that vegetation and not fill in that swale or really have anything going on there. So I think, leaving the houses where they are, again, I think maybe enhance the view shed from the lake. I think the last one, let me turn. This was where all the photos were taken. I can go through those. I don't know if you want to.
Can we take a look at how we're getting to the 4.23 acres open space where that's going to be located?
Okay. So to the rear, lots 58, 57, we've got 56. They've got an area, this hatched area is all the proposed open space. And then back behind, lots 51, 50, 51, 52, and is this open space, I'm not sure. 54 is here, that's supposed to be 55. There's a hatched area along the slope and along the rear portion of all of those lots as well.
Okay, and when we're doing the open space calculation, I'm going to clarify this for the record because I know it's come up in prior applications. The 40-foot buffer, how as drawn here, does that or does that not factor into the total 4.23 acres?
I'd have to ask Mr. Gary if they totaled that into the total. I don't believe they did. Because as it's indicated here, this hatched area totaled that acreage.
Okay. And can you just highlight one more thing for the commission's benefit, which I think you already just did, but I just want to make sure that we're calling it out so we all know that we're looking at the same thing, which is the inland wetland request for the 25-foot conservation easement over lot 55.
Okay, so lot, that's this area here, what otherwise I refer to as the beach. It's the strip of land on the south side of Upper Patagonia Road, and they conditioned a 25-foot easement from the road toward the lake along Upper Patagonia Road.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone have questions on the map?
Madam Chair, I'd just say for the record, I think that's labeled lot 55A on the plans.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I just respond briefly to the open space issue? I have a letter, and I believe it's in part of the record. I was looking through the correspondence. I don't know exactly which one it's in, but it's January 5th from the East Lyme Land Trust. It says, "Dear members of the East Lyme Planning Commission, please accept this correspondence as notice that the East Lyme Land Trust agreement with English Harbor Asset Management to accept the conservation easements identified on the subdivision plans above for 121 Upper Patagonia Road. The intent of the proposed conservation easement is to protect the area of 8 residential lots being created that have unique geological features, including scenic vistas. Accordingly, the East Lyme Land Trust believes these areas should be preserved without public access for the reasons set forth in section 7-2-6 of the town subdivision regulations." And to address your comment with regard to the open space, the buffers can be included in the open space calculation. On there, it's under section 23-23.5B that provides that the buffer can be included in the open space calculation.
Are they as drawn?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Just, Madam Chair, for the record, the letter that Attorney Garrity just referenced is in the attachments to Exhibit AAA. I think
Thank you.
it's
Madam Chair, one other thing, only a portion of the buffer is included in the open space calculation, not the buffers around the sides that are shown on the exhibit that's in front of the commission right now.
Okay, so the portion of the buffer that's included in the open space calculation is the portion that goes over the hatched area
Correct.
there,
Correct.
not against the actual lots.
That's correct.
Fantastic, thank you.
and that land trust letter is Exhibit I to Exhibit AAA.
You did a good job going through the alphabet on this one, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Casey. Further discussion, questions from the commission? I'd like to open up for discussion the 200-foot setback requirement and whether this commission feels that in this case that that's something that we may want to consider waiving for a number of the reasons discussed by Mr. Gaishel.
would we need any sort of documentation to note our waiving of that, or how procedurally, how would you do that?
Well, I think pursuant to your regs, you'd probably just make a finding that the need to relocate or move the houses and maintain a 200-foot deep, no build, no cut buffer is obviated by the existing conditions. And that the proposed plan is the preferred alternative and meets the intent of the regulations, the CDD regulations, as proposed versus requiring them to provide a deep no build, no cut buffer.
Was that land already cleared up closer to the road then? Is that?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's existing structures and things like that, that the camp, yeah, they had cleared areas. So they're trying to take advantage of those areas where they had structure already and areas cleared versus clearing new areas. The other comment I have is by relocating, if you look at lots 50 and 51 and 53 in particular, notice that slope is super steep. If you start putting houses and foundations into those slopes, you may end up having to blast, and then that creates a whole new issue of ground. You could have water in your bedrock, and you get leakage and icing issues, drainage issues that maybe are really something we would rather prevent than have that additional water sheet flowing across these lots that was never really accounted for. So I think keeping the houses in the proposed location would be better than situating them on a steep slope. I would also note that the plan of development recommends that we don't construct and build on slopes of 25% or greater. And I haven't done the math here, but looking at how close those contours are, and even just noting the scale on this, that's a pretty steep slope. That may be more than 25%. So backing homes up into there, I don't think is a great idea.
So this-
So it's not exactly clear then what we're going to be approving, because I see like two different proposed house locations, and I'm just not sure, looking at these plans, what the final plan is going to be.
Madam Chair, may I address that issue?
Absolutely, please.
So with respect to the 200-foot buffer, one of the prerequisites for this is the language in the regulation that says in wooded areas where a sense of enclosure is a feature that should be maintained. Because the area in the front of the lots has already been cleared for the Girl Scout camp, it makes more sense to keep that area for the development purposes, because we'd be clearing an area in order to meet the 200-foot buffer requirement. So we'd actually be doing exactly what the regulation tries to prevent from happening. And therefore, as Mr. Gaishel noted, we're doing the proposed houses in the area which was developed by the Girl Scout camp, has existing buildings on it, and has been cleared. So I think that responds to Commissioner Scott's question. The other question that he had, the plan that we're looking at right now is what is proposed. One of the other plans that shows the location of the house that we're proposing, and then has in red, I believe it is, the meeting, right, that one that was just up on the screen. Those in red are what would be the location for the houses if we were doing a CDD subdivision, but we're not proposing that.
Well, can I clarify that a bit further, Attorney Garrity?
Yeah, sure.
You are showing that you can comply with all
Correct.
of the CDD regulations when you, on this map that we're looking at, what's being proposed complies with the regulations of the CDD with exception of the 200-foot setback. Is that?
Right. So exactly, but you can waive that that requirement. And that's what we're asking to be done here, because it makes more sense to locate the houses where they're shown in the grayscale on here as opposed in the red, because doing them where they wouldn't in the red would seem to defeat the purpose of keeping that area undeveloped, or the rears of the lots undeveloped.
Mhm.
So the red's not, we're not proposing the items outlined in red
No,
by virtue of
that's
the fact that we are doing a CDD and not CDC.
right. See, right.
Okay,
So
I get it. Thank you.
I do want to discuss, before we're getting ready to make motions, I do want to discuss the rest of the property that is not currently outlined here, and it's so that we're not getting into a kind of similar debate on open space in the event that future subdivision is proposed adjacent to this property, or, you know, on the remaining acreage. And I think, Gary, in the exhibits where we're looking at the former and current regulations, do we have something on the books about marking that down and how to do so properly, so that future commissions have a clear path on what was intended at the time?
I think looking at our regulations and the comment from Mr. Casey pointing out section, I think it was 7-2-2 of the regs. You know, our regs we have to follow our regs. So as long as we follow our regs, you know, we're in good standing there. So there's really nothing that, other than requiring, say, a note be placed on the plan. And the reg does require notes to be placed on the plan as it refers to the deferring of open space. So I think for future applications, commissions, whatever, the best you could do is add notes to the plan that would specify what the commission's intent was, or requirements thereof, right? That's kind of, I think, what you would do there. Is say, hey, there's, you know, remaining land. What do you want to do with it? I think they indicated during their testimony that it was going to remain a campground. We have this exhibit III, which was Mr. Mulholland's comments. He indicated that the existing use, because the lot was getting reduced, it didn't exacerbate the nonconformity, and that the existing use could continue. That's all he commented on there. So as far as, you know, what the intent of that lot going forward, it sounds like it's going to be a campground. If you know, is it a building lot? It would be a building lot of record. So if they wanted to clear all the structures and abandon the use and make it a single family residential lot, they could do that. Build a house. But again, to do that, they would probably be coming back, or at least going to Light, having to get approvals there, go through zoning, and the rest of it. Change of use. Doing existing permitted use by right.
Madam Chair, if you mind, I'll just add, and you know, and then I'll defer to Mr. Garrity because it's his client, but this might be a perfect place to use the note in section 7.2.2, because they're dedicating open space based on the amount of acreage that's being subdivided now. But if you specifically use section 2.2.2 to defer the need to dedicate any additional open space that might be attributable to the remaining land, then in the future, they could come in or, you know, a successor could come in and subdivide the campground area, and they wouldn't have been held to, you know, have dedicated any land, open space now. It'd be known to everyone in the future that when they subdivide the campground, that they're going to have to dedicate open space at that time, but they don't need to do it now. So that would be my suggestion. So we don't have any confusion going forward. You know, if it's another 10 years, I don't know how many of us will be around doing this. But it'll be clear that the open space for the campground area, there's no open space has been dedicated for the subdivision of the campground area. That the open space that's been dedicated on this lot is solely for the 8 lots that are being considered now. And if it's on the plan, it's on the plan. People don't have to, you know, try to read between the lines on minutes. Or I guess now everyone could watch these Zoom videos, but I always think it's better that it be in, you know, on the plan or in the approval at the end of the day, because that's your final, that's the final statement of the commission. I apologize for the noise.
Madam Chairman, so
Absolutely.
presently, there's no intent to do anything with the remaining land other than what's traditionally been, which is the campground. But I mean, in terms of a note, I think the note would only apply if the property is re-subdivided, because if it's not used for residential purposes, the open space requirements wouldn't necessarily apply. So they'd have to be careful in terms of the language of the note so that it doesn't unduly restrict the use of the property going forward.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm more concerned with this what's being proposed to be dedicated now, so that obviously when the last time this commission had a conversation similar to this a decade ago, this property wasn't you know, in the near view for development either. So it's more about future ease of the commission.
Right.
Understanding.
Understood.
Okay, I'd like to just go through one more time before I ask for a motion for any other items of discussion or questions from the commission. Okay. Does anyone want to put a motion on the table regarding this application? Mr. Gordon.
Okay, let's see. I spin a motion to approve the application known as application of Kristen Clark, PE, for Cold Spring Lot Management, LLC / John Drebeck, owner for Nottingham Hills Subdivision Phase 5. Prepared for Kristen Clark, PE, English Harbor Asset Management, LLC, for an 8-lot subdivision of property at 121 Upper Patagonic Road, East Lyme, Assessor's Map 35.0, Lot 41, which is further subject to the following administrative requirements and required modifications to the site plan and or other materials submitted in support of this application. I'll just read off the modifications. 1, an erosion and sedimentation control bond and an amount satisfactory to the town engineer shall be posted with the town in a form acceptable to the Town of East Lyme Planning Commission prior to the start of any site work, including but not limited to clearing, grubbing, filing, and grading. 2, detailed grading and drainage plan shall be provided for the lots and proposed drives, outlining the spillway management for the rain gardens and the grading of the drives / swales in relation to check dams, etc., and submitted on a 24 by 36 sheet at a scale of 1 inch equals 40, I don't know, I'm not sure how that, but an operations and maintenance manual shall be submitted to the town clarifying who the responsible parties for the maintenance of the check dams and rain gardens will be and shall include an inspection and maintenance criteria. 4, as the existing topography and vegetation provide a naturally occurring bioswale, which obviates the need to construct a bioswale in front of lots 51, 52, and 54. The proposed limits of clearing shall be strictly adhered to, and a drainage / conservation easement preventing the clearing or regrading of this area shall be provided. 5, drafts the proposed easements for the installation of underground utilities shall be provided to the Director of Planning for review by council as to content and form. And 6, the applicable items above shall be accomplished prior to the filing of the subdivision on the land records or other documentation of planning approval, and no site work shall commence until all applicable conditions are satisfied. This approval is specific to read the other part too at the bottom. The approval is specific to the subdivision plan submitted as the application known as the application of Kristen Clark BE for Cold Spring Lot Management LLC, John Drabeck, owner for Nottingham Hill Subdivision Phase 5, prepared for Kristen Clark PE English Harbor Asset Management LLC for an 8-lot subdivision of property at 121 Upper Patagonic Road, East Lyme Assessors Map 35.0, Lot 41. Any changes in the subdivision plan shall require prior approval from the commission and or the Director of Planning. Any change in development plan layout other than those identified herein shall constitute a new application. The owner applicant shall be bound by the provisions of this application and approval.
Thank you, Rich. Do I have a second? Jason
Second.
Debo?
I'll second.
Okay, great. Before we move on to a vote, any discussion on the motion? I do have one question. Do we need to explicitly discuss that 200-foot setback waiver, or does the motion cover? Does that need to be voted on separately?
I don't believe it needs to be voted on separately. I believe you need to make a finding, though, that the proposed plan is the preferred alternative. I would use language like that. And the other part of that discussion was, as you brought up, regarding the remaining acreage and whether or not a note should be placed on the plan. If you're going to require that, you should make that a condition.
Rich, would you be willing to amend your motion to reflect those 2 items? We can probably help with how to say it.
I can do either, I guess. So what am I amending the?
Be amending the motion to add an additional condition number 6, pursuant to section 7-2-2 of the East Lyme subdivision regulations, a note shall be placed on the plan.
Oh, and okay.
That a note be placed on the plan that indicates, quote, the open space dedication attributed to the land depicted on this map is hereby deferred to a later date when some or all the remaining land is re-subdivided. At such later date, the open space attributed to this subdivision will be combined with the open space dedication attributed to the remaining portions of the entire tract and a size at location determined by the commission in accordance with requirements set forth in the subdivision regulations. End quote.
I can submit an amendment to my other proposal on the condition under the 7.22 subdivision regulations that a note shall be placed to abide by the open space directives for future activity on that property, on that lot. Or is that?
Yeah, I would probably rephrase that to say that a note shall be placed on the plans that indicate that the open space dedication attributed to the land depicted on the map is hereby deferred to a later date when some or all the remaining lands to be subdivided. And that's specific to lot 50.
Okay, so I have to note on the plan for open space dedications in the future, shall,
Deferred.
subdi-
I would say
Gary, I'm actually typing it into the chat. Yeah, and maybe everyone can look at it if you just give me 1 minute. Because I think we need to note that except for the right, the 4.32 acres specifically shown as being sorry. Okay, that's in the chat. Maybe everyone could take a look at it and see if that is acceptable. I think it tracks the language in the regulation, but accounts for the specific dedication proposed by the applicant already. So I think that covers the situation where if no one ever tries to re-subdivide this again, there's no further open space requirement. But if they do come in, then they would have to propose open space at that point. But it definitely credits them for the 3.2 acres proposed here.
4 point, yeah, okay.
It's
I see it.
4.3? Do I have that
Yeah,
right?
4.23.
Fix it. I mean, I apologize. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But
Is it? Yeah, I know, I think
It's
it's
4
correct
point,
in the,
it's 4.3, but it's correct in the note.
okay.
I just want to confirm, as written, we're saying, yes, you have to, it will be dedicated now. However, in the event that the further land is subdivided, this will, the 30% of that will also need to be dedicated.
Well, we are unconditionally dedicating to 4.3, but I don't know whether it would be 30% or 10%. It would depend on what
Right.
happens with the development. So,
yeah.
Okay.
And I'm just looking at, so it says, I'm looking at exhibit AAA on page 4 in Kristen Clark's letter. She says that conservation easement area is totaling 2.3 acres. So I had the numbers switched.
Just to be clear, is it 4.23?
That's what's in the letter.
Okay.
And on the plans, but I'll ask Paul or.
That 4.23 is correct.
Okay, Mr. Gordon, we are in the middle of your amended motion.
I'd like to amend my previous proposal to add that the open space dedication attributable to the land depicted on this map, except for the 4.23 acres specifically shown as dedicated to open space, is hereby deferred to a later date when some or all of the remaining land is re-subdivided. At such later date, the open space attributable to the subdivision of the remaining land on this parcel will be combined with the open space dedication or dedications attributable to the remaining portion or portions of the entire tract in a size and at a location determined by the commission in accordance with the requirements set forth in the subdivision regulations.
And the note, Gary, do you have thoughts on language regarding the house placement and 200-foot setback?
I don't know that it really wouldn't be necessarily a condition. I think it would just be a finding of fact, like, so you're approving this. Maybe it make you feel better if you put a condition in there or something, or some paragraph that says, hey, we recognize that there's no need for moving the houses 200 feet back, right? So I would say that the preferred alternative is the proposed plan in terms of the house location, because it better fulfills the intent of the CDD regulations where proposed versus actually having to meet them.
You could add to the motion something along those lines, and that the motion that's, specifically in support of this motion is a determination that the proposed house locations, and then what Gary said.
So what we're saying is specifically the motion that the locations are. What was
Preferred
just going to say?
alternative. I think the house locations proposed by the applicant are the preferred alternative.
Okay.
And that adherence to the 200-foot setback as required in the CDD regulations is not required to or is the preferred alternative, and that the 200-foot setback in the CDD requirements is not required, and that the proposal meets the spirit. I mean, that's not right word, Gary. Do you have a different word? Meets the intent of the regulations to protect the environment. I'm not good at drafting on the fly.
So we're basically saying the locations
Yep.
determined by the applicant adhere to the intent and the satisfies the environmental requirements.
Yeah.
Would that be?
Mr. Scott put language in the text in the chat as well.
Oh, okay. 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 So I'll just put down an amendment that the proposed house locations are preferable and meets the intent of protecting the environment.
Great, thank you. And who was our second? Do we second as amended?
Mr. Diebel.
Can you come up and tell us?
So Can I just clarify, is what Kurt put in there, is that number 8 or where is that going in the motion?
I think that was 7.
Well, so the issue about the note is number 7. I think Gary
Correct.
misspoke earlier. Yep. And what this would be is more of in support of this motion. You know, we find that the proposed house locations are preferable and meet the intent of protecting the environment.
So not part of the motion.
Yeah, or I would say preferable to mandating the 200-foot setback in the CBD regulations. I think, if Madam Chair, that would be my recommendation to be, so it's clear.
Yep. Yes, I agree.
Let me get that.
Just put another one in there if you guys want to look at it.
I think that gets at exactly what we're trying to say.
So they say that in terms of the 200-foot setback.
I don't
Yeah,
even
that-
think we need to,
Note that. Just add that. Okay. You don't need to add that. Okay. Just. Okay.
there we go.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary.
There we go. Okay, so I said that.
Gary, you're on
Yes.
mute, so we did not hear what you just said.
I just posted in the chat. Rather than saying the intent is to protect the environment, I think the intent is inherent in the regulations. So I'm pointing to the regulations as it, by doing this, it's still, we're saying that it's going to meet the regs.
Okay, so
Because I don't, just because something is environmentally protective doesn't mean we can necessarily approve it. As we just saw, we're looking, right? So that's.
okay. So I should change my amendment to reflect that, I guess.
You would amend your
Or
motion.
just add to what I said before.
So this would be a statement, not a condition, as part of your motion. So
Okay. Okay, in addition, in support of this motion in regards to the house locations, the locations proposed by the applicant, alternative versus maintaining a 200-foot wall, no, 200-foot, no clear setback and meets the intent of these Lyme CDD subdivision regulations, 200-foot setback.
After the word applicant, it should say is the preferred.
Okay, proposed by the applicant is preferred alternative versus maintaining a 200-foot clear set, no non-clear, it's a non-clear setback.
No build, no clear setback.
No 200-foot, no clear setback, and meets the intent of these Lyme CBD subdivision regulations.
How you
Sue, are
doing,
you
Sue?
good?
My head's spinning a little bit here. Mr. Gordon, where are you inserting that? Could you repeat that again?
Okay, so I'll read it over. In support of this
Support of this
motion.
motion. Yep.
I'm sorry.
I'll try it because I've been paying attention. I've been following along.
I think Sue just wants to know where it's going to get inserted into the
And
motion.
yeah, what gets in, I think all right, I'll get to that after. So if you could just repeat that again, where it says in support of this motion and what you wanted to insert.
Almost done.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like Rich may have frozen. Are you there?
Well, I'm right here.
Okay. Can you repeat?
I just put it in the chat. Let me know if that's, I think that's gets all the words in.
Okay.
Except I didn't spell foot right. I didn't correct
Okay.
Gary's.
Okay, in support of this motion, are we ready? In support of this motion in regards to the house locations, the locations proposed by the applicant, I preferred alternative versus maintaining a 200-foot no build, no clear setback, and meets the intent of the East Lyme CDD subdivision regulations.
Okay, now where in, so this is, are you saying this is not part of the motion, or it's just not part of the conditions?
I would say it goes after the last condition, before the language, this approval is specific to
Okay.
the subdivision plan.
But it doesn't have, but it's not number 8, it's just a standalone statement. Correct?
Yes, that's what I would recommend.
Okay.
Back to you, Jason.
You like me to say seconded as amended or seconded as supported?
As amended.
I second this as amended.
Okay, do we have any further discussion on the motion as amended a couple times there?
I hate to do this. I think this was already discussed earlier, but the agenda says this is lot 41. I'm sorry, lot 44. And all the stuff we've been talking about is 41. I just want to make clear that the agenda is not correct and we are discussing the proper lot.
So you're talking about the assessor's map number.
Yeah.
Versus the address.
Assessor's map 35.0 lot 44 is on the special meeting agenda.
The good news is, according to Exhibit A, our application, it's assessor's map, lot 35.0, lot 44. Totaling 63.86 acres.
Okay. Thank you.
So the error was in the drafting of the motion. Sorry, Gary.
No problem. We can,
You can amend the motion to change 41 to 44. Good catch.
Okay.
Can I make a motion to change 41 to 44?
Or you'd ask Rich to amend his motion and
Does he have to read the whole thing over again?
no.
Okay, let's go back here. I have to submit a motion to change it from lot 41 to lot 44.
And I second as amended to lot 44.
Thanks all. Any further discussion? Okay, I would like to entertain a vote. All those in favor of the motion as amended. I'm going to do roll call as is our tradition for Zoom meetings so that we make sure we're really clear on the record. Nicole Davison,
Aye.
Rich Gordon,
Aye.
Jason Diebel,
Aye.
Kirk Scott,
Aye.
Tom Fitting,
Aye.
and Michelle Williams, aye. Let the record show that the commission has unanimously approved the motion set forth. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate everyone's time tonight. And Mr. May too. Appreciate you sticking it out here with us. We do have one other agenda item to cover tonight.
I don't think you need me anymore.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank
Good night,
you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Good
your
night,
time.
everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
All right, thank you.
So our item of new business tonight is the request of Mel Weiss, Roxbury Road LLC, for an extension of time to file Mylars for a 5-lot subdivision of approximately 8.61 acres of land zoned R40, R20 on property located at Roxbury Road, East Lyme Assessors Map number 16.1, lot number 43-1. Gary, can you walk us through this one?
Sorry, I let you read all that. At this point, they were able to file their Mylars.
Great.
So it's the deadline was actually yesterday. Being that we met today, it was literally a legal snafu. So the only way to correct that is make sure you got in. So we just told them we had till today, or I'm sorry, Monday. They got in Friday and filed them. So that's it.
Good work.
I would just note, kind of a separate matter, just check your emails. I put an RFP out for those because we haven't solidified a full subcommittee yet or who's going to do or what we're going to do necessarily with an affordable housing plan. But if you can look at that and take a look, if you have any questions, comments, send them just to me directly. Don't reply all. And hopefully we can get that out the door. I'd like to get it out the door before we meet on the 25th. Just because time's ticking, that's all. So if you can take a look at that, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to move to adjourn tonight?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Deval. All in favor of adjournment? I think maybe we can do this one by an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. See, that looks unanimous as well. Thank you all. Very much appreciate your time. See you later this
Good job,
month.
Michelle.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks.